Hi, my name is Dr. John Douillard, and many of you know I wrote a book called Eat Wheat, a scientifically proven way to safely reintroduce wheat and dairy back into your diet. And I understand many of you don't feel good when you eat wheat, and why would you eat something that makes you feel bad? You also have to remember that the gluten-free industry now is a $16 billion a year industry, suggesting that many of the foods that we're eating may not be in our health's best interest. The gluten-free foods are super highly processed, and the science shows that it actually is the processed foods that have literally broken down our ability to digest and detoxify well, linked directly to our epidemics of obesity, depression, prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, and of course the great breakdown of our digestive system. Processed foods, the inorganic foods, the pesticides on our foods, and the environmental pollutants, of which there are 400 billion pounds dumped in the American environment every single year, have a really negative effect on our microbes that make the enzymes that are specifically engineered to digest things like wheat and dairy and other hard to digest proteins. The anti-nutrients, for example, on wheat and beans and legumes and nuts and seeds, all of which are hard to digest. So what's happening in our culture, more and more people are finding, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, and we just keep taking these foods out of the diet without really fixing the real problem, which is a broken down digestive system, cleaning up our diet, getting the processed foods out of our diet, and beginning to eat the foods in a whole food form without sending the food out and then finding ourselves having to take another food and another food and another food out of our diet, which we've been now doing for quite some time. So I wrote Eat Wheat because I found that people who take wheat out of their diet don't actually get better. And I've been doing this for 30 plus years. They come back and they have other digestive problems. You take something else out of the diet and then more out of the diet, next thing you know, they're vegans or vegetarians or raw foodists and paleo, or not eating any grains at all, just meat and vegetables. We are going down the road of just taking foods out of our diet because we feel bad eating them, and I get that. Why wouldn't you? Of course you would. But that's not the real culprit. The real culprit is a broken down digestive system. The exact same thing happened 60 years ago when they blamed cholesterol and heart disease, which had nothing to do with heart disease, and they replaced those cholesterols, those good fats, with a bunch of bad fats, cooked, processed, bleached, deodorized, refined vegetable oils, which are directly linked to congesting our liver and our gallbladder, wiping out the microbes that help us digest the hard to digest foods like wheat and dairy. And that's all fixable, right? So we fix that. Other factors, and I write about this in this article, are other things that we've done to wheat that make it very difficult for us to eat. One, we overeat the heck out of it. I've been eating it 3 times a day for 60 years plus. Wheat is a grain harvested in the fall for winter eating. It was never meant to be eaten every single day of the year, and that's a problem, right? In 1980, they subsidized the growth of wheat for pennies on the dollar, and everybody was eating wheat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we were eating highly processed versions of it. Bread that sits on the counter for more than 2 days without getting hard is a processed version of the bread. They put all those cooked oils in the bread to extend shelf life, not your life, the shelf life, and therefore the bread doesn't get hard. It stays squishy for a really long time. Good bread, artisan bread, which has got a whole organic whole wheat, right, salt, water, and an organic starter, which takes 3 days to bake, literally will last a day or 2 on the shelf before it gets hard. That's the kind of bread that we can actually eat. Good quality, organic, non-refined, non-processed bread. We've been eating it for not 10,000 years like they like to tell you, but they found studies where they found gluten and C3 grains in the teeth of ancient humans, which include gluten from barley and wheat, which covered all of Africa. The grasslands were just basically a lot of wheat and a lot of barley out there. They covered all of Africa, and they found that 3.5 million years ago. Not 10,000, 3.5 million years. And the reality is they found that we started only hunting and cooking our own meat 500,000 years ago. So we have 2 million years plus of genetics for digesting wheat than we do meat. So it's interesting that everybody who can't eat grains and rice and wheat are all now eating meat and vegetables, a paleo type diet, which, and if you talk to any anthropologist, Harvard anthropologist, who will tell you that the paleo diet today of meat and vegetables is not what the paleo people ate. There's nothing paleo about the paleo diet. That's a quote from a Harvard anthropologist. They actually had grains and cereal grains in their diet, and they ate up to 30 to 40% in many cases of them as grains, and there's good science to back that up, and I write about in my book, Eat Wheat. So crazy concepts, right? And then the idea that ancient grains are better than modern grains. Well, they found that ancient grains in many cases have twice as much gluten in it as modern grains do. So, and the ancient grain had twice the reduction of inflammation, lowered your blood sugar, and lowered cholesterol. So how could the wheat with twice as much gluten all of a sudden be so good for us if gluten is bad? We have a $16 billion a year gluten-free industry. It makes you think twice about that. And I have over 600 scientific references in my book suggesting that wheat in its whole form is actually quite beneficial. It helps you reduce the risk of Alzheimer's by 53% in one study, 54% in another. Lowers blood sugar significantly. In study after study, reduces the risk of type 2 diabetes in many, many studies. Helps us lose weight, reduce arthritic risk. I mean, the studies go on and on and on. Nobody tells you about that when you're trying to sell you a gluten-free product that's highly processed, which is making the cause worse, and raising blood sugar even more. And because these processed foods have high glycemic index, we've linked a high glycemic refined wheat to Alzheimer's and belly fat and all that. But those are processed foods. Any processed food will aggravate your blood sugar and cause you to have, increased risk of Alzheimer's and diabetes risk. But whole foods don't do that, and wheat and other grains literally don't have that science behind it. They're just not there. So a very interesting discussion. We eat the wheat, also at the wrong time of day oftentimes. There's a new science called Circadian medicine, which is our link to the cycles of nature. And science says it'll revolutionize medicine as we know it. And it says that we have disconnected ourselves from the science. And the science shows that we eat better, bigger, heavier, stronger in the middle of the day and not at night. So eating a big loaf of bread at night before you go to bed, we don't digest it well. The digestive strength is in the middle of the day. The digestive strength is stronger in the winter. When wheat was harvested, there's an enzyme in your body called amylase, which we genetically evolved to get around 2 million years ago when we started eating a lot more grain in our diet, interestingly, and more carbohydrates in our diet. We literally evolved to create an enzyme called amylase, which apes didn't have, that is specifically for carbohydrates. So to say carbohydrates are bad when just 2 million years ago we evolved to eat carbohydrates, we don't evolve to eat it because we had it once a week. We were eating it and needing to eat it more effectively. So very interesting, right? Well, that amylase enzyme is cyclical in nature. It increases in the fall, it decreases and then in the winter, it decreases in the spring and the summer, suggesting that we get the enzyme that digests wheat in the fall when wheat was harvested just when we need it. So more of those heavier grains in the winter and the fall to prepare for winter is what nature had in mind. The idea that we should eat wheat every day of the year, 3 times a day, is nothing to do with natural. Processing the heck out of it makes it even worse. Spraying pesticides on it that kill the bugs that help us digest the wheat makes it even worse. Breathing in toxic air and all the mercury that are on all the coal mine, from the coal mine plumes that are on every organic vegetable, including your wheat. If you can't digest hard to digest foods like wheat and dairy really, really well, and you once were able, then how are you going to break down the mercury from the coal mine plumes that are on every organic vegetable? You can't. You're going to have to be able to digest well, to detoxify well. And in our crazy toxic world, being a good detoxifier is so critically important. And I talk about how that's linked to lymphatic congestion and how the lymph drains 3 pounds of toxic chemicals out of your brain every year. And if you can't digest well, you will directly congest your lymphatic system and the brain drains will become clogged. And that's the cause of why you feel so brain foggy when you eat wheat, because the wheat is undigested, and that undigested wheat and undigested many other processed foods and fats and environmental pollutants will end up in your lymph, congesting your lymph, your skin rashes, tiredness, lethargy, belly fat, and brain fog. And they're all linked to a congestion of lymph, which is linked to a great breakdown of the digestive system. So seasonal eating, getting rid of the pesticides on our food that break down those foods, and then looking at traditional ways of eating wheat, sprouting it, sourdough bread, soaking the grains, helps break down the phytic acids. Spelt bread has 40% less of the phytic acid, so it's really great for you if you have a little bit of weak digestion, you're just trying to get started with it. Rye bread, really easy on the blood sugar, significantly less than other sorts. So different strains of wheat, although they all have gluten, they actually have different strengths and weaknesses, right? All foods sort of have that. So we can kind of navigate. And I help you in the book, Eat Wheat, do a couple of things. One, troubleshoot around what kind of wheat and how to get the best wheat in your diet. But also, I take you step by step to troubleshoot your digestive system. So you know what aspect of your digestion broke down from the processed foods or the stress or the environmental pollutants or the pesticides. Was it your digestion in your stomach, your gallbladder, your liver, your lymphatic system, the quality of your intestinal skin, the pancreatic enzymes, duodenal enzymes? Where is the problem? My constipation issue. Where is the problem and how can we naturally begin to fix it, repair the problem, fix the cause, begin to start allowing ourselves to enjoy seasonal foods, including wheat in its natural form, in its whole form, once again, breaking bread in a healthy way. And I totally understand why you wouldn't want to eat wheat if you feel bad. And I don't blame you, and I'm not suggesting you should eat wheat if you feel bad, but don't stop there. That's a symptom, in most cases, of an underlying digestive problem that we need to address, because that problem will create real problems down the road. And we need to stop kicking the real cause problem down the road and fix the reason, the underlying digestive breakdown now. Of course, if you're celiac, it's a whole different animal. But even then, repairing and supporting digestive strength makes good sense. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. Douillard. Hi, did you like this video? Do you like our content here at LifeSpa? You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/John Douillard right here and get this valuable content every week in your inbox.
This recording is brought to you by LifeSpa, where ancient Ayurvedic wisdom meets modern science. Get access to free health video newsletters by Dr. John at lifespa.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.